back to the Mad Media Podcast, everybody. I'm Writer.
And I'm John.
And happy post-4th of July to everybody out there who celebrates it. We had an amazing 4th of July. Johnny, did you guys do anything?
Basically, like I was kind of telling you, we're not really the firework family. I guess we kind of it's kind of watching movies and stuff like that. Just like a lot of I did go to the casino and watch my friend win $700. So that was
damn! Doing what?
Just he is the luckiest person when it comes to a casino I've ever seen in my life. I've never sat beside somebody that's won more money in the casino than him.
Wow.
We were literally there for 2 hours, and he was just playing the slot machines.
Oh.
And all you would hear is, you know what I mean? It's like, what is going on? I kept looking at him, and then I'm the responsible one because I don't gamble.
Okay, all right.
My job is to take the winning tickets and put them in my pocket and don't give it to him before cashing out.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's like I think we were, from what he put in, he won just under $700.
That's crazy.
I've never. Usually people lose their ass at a casino.
Yeah, man.
We walked out with $700.
Yeah, dude, and also the psychology of casinos has always been interesting to me because, you know, boarding up, not showing any windows and any radios, no clocks, nothing like that, nothing to tell you or to acknowledge the passage of time. It's crazy. And yeah, you could just lose your mind in there.
Oh yeah, it's just sensory overload.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that too, this is one thing. Usually people, when they sit down at a game, they kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
He'll sit down on a game and he'll just be like, well, I guess this is good. And then it'll just be spitting hundreds of dollars at him. It's like,
crazy.
We should have walked out. We should have walked out broke losers. But apparently it was our day.
Could you smoke in there?
No, they have a smoke. Like they used to allow you to smoke in the casinos in North Dakota. I don't know. Or this one was in Minnesota. So that's like, no.
Gotcha.
But in North Dakota, I think they still do. They had a smoking room.
Yeah.
Where you can go, just because our winters are just death. And, so it's like, give them a room they can go smoke in. And it's like the casino, and then there's the bathroom, and then there's the smoking room. So it's separated, but you can still smell it. It still smells like an ashtray in there.
I was on the set for a film that we were shooting in Atlantic City, and so we were all staying at the Borgata, and it's this grand, luxurious hotel / casino and everything. And I remember just walking in, immediately being hit with like the overwhelming smell of cigar smoke. And me growing up in the 90s, like I never had to deal with something like that. Like the furthest I went was like my grandmother smoking like her head off in our Volkswagen Beetle and me having to like breathe it all in the back seat. But other than that, I never really was hit like that indoors. And it makes total sense. Like if you want to keep people in their seats for as long as possible, gambling, you'll make smoking allowed indoors. Never bring them outside.
And like in casinos too, it's like they have the bar.
Yeah.
And then they have like the free drink rail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where you can get soda and stuff. In these casinos, they have people walking around with pitchers.
Yeah.
Pouring you drinks and stuff like that. It's not like I'll take your drink order. It's like, what do you want from this cart kind of thing.
Yeah. I felt like I was in some like vaudevillian movie. I was like, this does not seem like 2025.
I mean, to me, a casino is the saddest place on earth, but
it can be.
It's also, it can just be sad because it's just walking around with an oxygen tank, just pumping your pension into a machine. It's like, come on,
dude.
I get it.
Yeah. I remember like we had to get up super early. It was like a 5 a.m. shoot or call time. So I got up at 4 o'clock to go for a morning run. And I went out and there was this one guy, God rest his soul, just like hunched over at an old timey slot machine, not even one of the new ones, with a cigar in hand. It looked like he'd been there. He hadn't slept a wink for hours there. And I'm like, my God, man, how could you it is what it is. They'll do it, and they won't they won't know how much time has passed. But it does look so sad. Yeah, it really does.
And to your point of like the smell of the cigarettes in there, I used to smoke. Not the best drugs in the world, but I smoked for 15 years.
Yeah,
and you don't realize how bad the smell is until you walk in there and you don't smoke anymore.
Oh yeah.
Like I didn't notice it because I was there puffing away.
Yeah.
but it just hangs in the wall. It's in the walls, it's in the carpet. It's just everywhere. It's in the
Yeah.
machines. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
So my 4th of July just spent pretty much on Roosevelt Island looking at the Brooklyn Bridge, and they can just the first of all, Macy's sponsors a whole fireworks show, and it's really awesome. And you have all these barges out in the river, and they just start blasting fireworks off like crazy. And also,
Yep.
the Brooklyn Bridge just rains down this like glitter of fireworks, and it just looks like the entire thing is just like engulfed in flame. It's so fun. It's so cool. So I split my time up between there, upstate New York, with the family, just going to all these fireworks shows, going to amusement parks, all that stuff. Fun time. Pretty much just took advantage of the time off without really doing anything overtly patriotic. It was
Yep.
just it was just fun. It was a 4-day weekend. Why not? You know.
That's kind of the thing for me. It's just an extended weekend for me,
Yep.
kind of
Yeah.
do what
Yeah.
you want to do.
Yeah.
And it was ungodly hot. Like in North
Yeah.
Dakota,
Yeah.
for some reason this year, I think God wants to just wipe North Dakota off the map because every weekend we've had tornadoes. If it's in the west or the east,
Wow.
tornadoes are just tearing through North Dakota right now. But it's so hot. I think it was like 93 degrees and just humid.
Yeah.
And on the 4th, like
Mhm.
there was a little bit of fireworks going on, but you really weren't shooting them off because we had like the storm of the century where it
Jesus.
dumped so much rain, like to the point where our streets were flooding.
Jesus
it's
Christ.
it's just one extreme after another
Yeah.
around
Did you
here. And then
hear? Go ahead.
winters in a few months, so it's gonna be
Yeah.
-40 soon enough.
Yeah. Not to go off on a tangent here, but did you hear about the flooding in Texas?
I heard about it. Yeah, I didn't. I heard about it. I didn't
Yeah.
hear any like details or anything like
Last I
that.
heard,
But
it
I
was a
heard it.
flash flood that killed at least 70 people so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my brother said
Unbelievable.
there was like a youth camp that like it carried an entire cabin away, like
Really?
with like a little like a girls' youth camp, like with people in it. It
Oh
carried
my
like an entire
God.
cabin. I guess it killed some people on that. I mean,
That's
don't quote me
insane.
on that. 'Cause that's coming from who
Yeah.
I didn't see anything about it, but
Yeah.
that's what I heard.
But
I heard it
still.
was like so strong and so like abrupt
Yeah.
that it just
God.
carried it
You
away.
know, and it's crazy because on 4th of July weekend, you would think that as soon as people started buying fireworks, you would hear all fireworks related incidents and things like that in the news. And the last thing you would think
Yeah,
of in July would be flash flooding in Texas.
yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
hear a whole lot about like you usually hear about some fatalities when it comes to fireworks. I didn't hear a whole lot this year. It must have been
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah. I tried
not
staying
so much
offline
going
as much as possible, but I'm sure they're around,
well. Yeah, I
given
mean
how
it's
hot it is already.
yeah. I mean, for a lot of this weekend wasn't stayed inside just because it was mid 90s and just
Yep.
humid. It
Yep.
just feels like a dog's breathing on you.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
terrible.
And honestly, what better activities to do inside than just to watch, a bunch of classics, watch your favorite movies. And to that point, we go to this topic for this episode, which was The Sandlot. Now,
The
a few
Sandlot.
days ago, I watched via live stream with a lot of you guys on Patreon. If you joined us on the live stream, thank you guys so much for being there. I appreciate it. This was my first time watching The Sandlot. We went through, we broke it down, we analyzed it. I reacted completely naturally because I'd never seen it. And it totally brought me back to my childhood as a
Yep.
kid in the 90s on something similar to that lot that they played baseball on religiously day in and day out. Now, Johnny, without putting too many words in your mouth, this is one of your favorite movies, right?
It is. I've been watching it. I think we had it on VHS when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
So like I've seen this countless, and it was back in the time where I lived in a small town that was hundreds of miles away from anything that you could purchase a movie.
Yeah.
So you had what you had,
Hmm.
and you kind of watched them on repeat. I've seen The
Yeah.
Sandlot probably 1,000 times. You know what I
Jesus
mean?
Christ.
Like I've watched that in Heavyweights. I've seen
Wow.
countless times. But
Now, yeah.
what did you think of it? I got it.
I
Like
thought, yeah. I thought it was great. It had a whole lot of different themes in it that I thought were great. Some of them came out of nowhere, some of them were justifiably earned. So, understandably, Smalls, what's his actual name? Is it just
oh
Smalls?
man,
Okay, all right. Let's just call him Smalls for all intents and purposes. Smalls
yeah,
trying to fit in, trying to live up to the to the expectations of his stepdad, which really aren't there. His stepdad doesn't really seem that present anyway. But just trying to fit in, trying to be the person that all the other kids expect him to be, and he goes through that struggle and everything. But also, since it's being narrated by adult him, there's also that sense of loss of innocence, which really doesn't come to fruition until the very end, where they all grow up. And it's like, oh, this is where this person is now. This person is playing baseball. It's like, oh wow, we're bringing them into the adult world now, and we're seeing just how different they are. And the Sandlot is literally just a tale being told of the past from them as an adult, as a present. I'm like, that's a really interesting element in showing exactly how they grew up. I thought it was just going to stay in isolation as them as children, but then it brought them into the present, and I was like, oh, that hits very differently now. As a member,
Well,
and that's what resonated with me, because that really made me nostalgic.
Well, I thought that ending part where they kind of explain what everyone does after the Sandlot,
Yeah.
it kind of hits home, because like, I don't know about you, but like where I'm from, not too many people stick around. So it's kind of,
Okay.
you do your high school, you go to high school,
Yeah.
and then you're kind of off on your own, and then
Yeah.
you might see them or talk to them here and there,
Yeah.
but you very much are like, you split apart. You kind of just go your own way.
Yeah.
Because in my hometown there wasn't a lot of opportunity to do a lot. A lot of people went to college, and then either moved to Bismarck or Fargo if you're going to stay in North
Okay.
Dakota,
Yeah.
because that's where the jobs were.
Yeah.
My hometown, there's 3 things you can do really without an education. You can work at the dairy, you can work at the store, or you can work, for a farmer. It's basically it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was that kind of hit home for me, because there's people I went to high school with that I haven't talked to since graduation day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, you kind of just go your own way.
The one thing that I thought was really interesting, that always makes me think about when I think of the theme loss of innocence, and this is one of the themes that I love writing about, because there's so much to work with when it comes to coming of age, whether it's something familial, whether it's your friends, whether it's the gaining of responsibilities. And that's the main thing that I caught on with the very end. I know it's not the most important thing with the story, but it's something that always gets me, is that when you look at the Sandlot as a story in isolation, their biggest problems are literally just baseball, a rival team, a dog that they hyperbolize as this giant monster. And wouldn't we all love to go back to a time where those were the most pressing issues of our life?
Yeah.
And then you fast forward 10, 20 years, obviously infinitely more problems. And just to think, like, back then, my biggest issue was that I couldn't, catch that double or that pop fly or something like that with my friends. Like, but you could try again the next day, or I ate too much chew as a 9-year-old. Wouldn't it be amazing if that was like the most that we had to deal with? And I long for those days almost every day, which sucks.
Well, that chew thing too. It's like the kids in my hometown, you would see them walking.
Are you serious? Like, how old?
Yeah. 15. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
it's all right. So it's not as bad,
14,
but good
15.
God. Dude.
Oh, it's not that young, but
Yeah.
it's like, it's just such a hometown thing for
But
me too.
but the kids in the Sandlot, weren't they like actually chewing it?
Well, what they had was it was called plugs,
Oh,
and basically it's a stick that you like break a piece off, and then you put it in your lip, and then you kind of work it, and it kind of dissolves. It's basically a stick.
Christ.
Like, I remember in high school, I can't even think about it anymore, because just the smell of it. It's like, but wild berry.
Oh,
Chewing tobacco is the most vile thing you will ever. Do you ever smell, taste? It's just.
It sounds like they're
wild
trying,
berry.
but what does it actually taste like?
It's basically, it's almost like you're having a stroke. It's like, it's wild berry. It tastes like wild berry, and it smells like candy. Like,
Okay,
that's
all right.
kind of like that tobacco marketing that was long ago. You know what I mean? It's like, it started that way back. But then you get the tobacco thing, so it's bitter, and it's like, it's almost like an acidic taste, and it's just
God.
You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've never chewed, but I would smell it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, people would tell me like it would tingle, and like, it's
As soon as I saw
better.
right. as soon as I saw them whip it out at the carnival,
Yep.
and I knew exactly where it was going. I was like, okay, they're gonna get on some spinny ride, and this is gonna be like a blender with the top off.
Mm-hmm.
Like this thing is gonna get nasty. And I think you even saw my
Yep.
reaction. I was like, I am viscerally going to throw up.
Well, that too. It's like going back to the old fairs when we
Yep.
were kids and
Yep.
stuff like that. Because we would have a fair every year. Like they would just bring in a carnival, and
Yeah.
we would
Yep.
have like
Yep.
those almost the same rides because it's like they didn't update their rides. It's no it's no Six Flags.
Yeah.
It's rides from the 50s that they paint every year.
Yeah.
But like the bullets and stuff like that, we still have those rides in North
Wow.
Dakota.
Jeez.
But yeah, I remember, and it's very, the movie too is very much like the gang mentality kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You had your group and
Yeah.
you had feuds with other groups. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like the gang fight scene when that
Yep.
that other team comes in and they're arguing or whatever, and then they have their dispute on the
Yeah.
on the field or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's had that like in their
Yeah.
childhood.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Meet up and you all line up and then
Mm-hmm.
you talk shit and then either you fight or you
Yep.
don't or you know.
I was
But
genuinely impressed with how many insults that they had like off the cuff
oh yeah,
with each other. I was like, man, they either had those loaded or they just really hate each other.
I read something when he's behind the plate
Mm.
during that game and he's
Yeah.
throwing insults at him and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Batting. That was all off the top of his
That's
head.
awesome.
That wasn't
I
written in the
love improv by like
script.
young actors. That's so
Mhm.
funny.
Did you ever did you watch that podcast with Patrick Renna that I sent to you?
Not yet. Not in all
Okay.
its entirety.
Okay,
Like,
because like Ham,
yeah.
I think his name's Patrick Renna or whatever.
Okay.
He gives you a lot of insight like during the filming and stuff like that.
That's cool.
But what all happened. And then I was gonna say too, almost everyone that's a kid, we all have that one dog or that one thing
Yeah.
that is always a menace. Like in my home, like the
Yep.
beast.
Yep.
They almost turned it into a mythical creature. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's
Yeah.
like Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, there was a there was a German Shepherd named Smokey
Yeah.
that you would drive your bike or you know no one kept their dogs in a fence or on a leash or anything in my
Yeah.
hometown. You would drive your bikes past his house and he would chase you to death.
God.
He would chase you all the way across town and like
Well, that sounds like that sounds less like a mythical dog and more like a legitimate threat.
but I read that the beast was inspired by a real dog
Oh.
that his brother I guess got mauled by or
Oh my
they had
God.
the director's brother had a problem and he
Mm.
got like attacked by this dog and that's the inspiration for the beast I guess.
Wow.
But that just made me think of Smokey because the meanest dog you've ever
Mhm.
seen in your life and it's just at your ankles
Yeah.
when you're on your bike. You know, you're pedaling as fast as you can, but he's
Yeah.
right there. It's
I
like
b-
you
yeah.
dump your bike, it's gonna be bad.
I've been around pitties and Rottweilers, dude. The meanest dogs I've ever been around have always been the tiny ones. They're
Yep.
always been the ankle biters. And those are the ones you can't get away from fast enough.
Yep. The I would say the meanest dogs I've ever seen in my life. We used to raise hunting dogs when I was a kid.
Ah,
And Brittany Spaniels.
okay.
They're like bird hunting dogs and they're not very big. They're probably about the size of a small pitty,
Okay.
but not
All right.
not muscular. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
They
yeah,
don't
yeah.
they sit pretty low.
Yep.
But the meanest mentality, like the
Interesting.
meanest dogs I've ever seen were
Huh.
my Brittany Spaniels. Mean.
Huh.
Just we never treated them bad or anything.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
were just
yeah.
mean.
I was gonna go with Chihuahua, but I
Chihuahua.
those things are just territorial as hell.
Yeah. It's basically that
Yeah.
same mentality.
Mhm.
Like if you're not a part of the family,
Mm-hmm.
they do not like you. I don't
Yep.
know what it is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, but it's you come close to it and it will growl and
Yeah.
it will
Yeah.
let you know.
I always thought that it was like something in their state of mind where they knew that they were fragile and that meant that they had to be more protective of themselves. I don't know. Either way, they were just straight up assholes.
It almost
Yeah.
it almost seems like the smallest dog is the most aggressive for some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Hands
the
down.
bigger they
Hands
get,
down.
they're just like
Mhm.
Rottweilers. I don't think I've ever seen a mean Rottweiler
Mhm.
unless it's like unless it's like abused or something like
Yep.
that. But
Yep.
they're docile, and
Yep.
they almost seem like a Lenny from of Mice and
Yeah.
Men
Yeah.
character,
Yeah.
where
Yeah. They don't know any
they're
better. Yeah.
just like dunces, but they're huge.
And that is the thing. Sometimes they do not know their own strength. And like I'll
No,
swear to the day I die, my pity, hands down one of the best well-mannered breeds I've
yeah,
ever experienced. Will like completely change my mind, my
oh yeah,
opinion of the breed. I would get another pity in a heartbeat.
yeah. One of my
But
buddies
yeah.
had one in town, and yeah, it was very well mannered.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're
No, no,
going
no,
on.
no. We're
A
getting we could turn this into a pet podcast if we really
mm-hmm.
needed to. No, I remember when I was a kid, my neighbor across the street swore up and down that he had a rattlesnake under his deck. And so naturally,
Okay.
what two 8-year-old boys would do is we took a couple of sticks and we crawled under the deck to go find this rattlesnake. And he swore up and down it was in the back corner. So we found the hole in the back corner and we poked at the hole, and all of a sudden this little thing just like latched out onto the stick. It was a little garter snake. We knew, like, we should have known. Obviously, it wasn't a big rattlesnake, but then we
Mm-hmm.
eventually pulled it out, got it by the tail. It latched onto one of our fingers, and then we just walked home with it on our finger to show our parents, which they of
Yep.
course passed, out immediately because it's a snake on your finger, eating your child slowly by the finger. But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
every kid has that imagination, and it's kind of good to have that imagination. If you're thinking completely logically at that point, you have no imagination as a kid. So I sympathize with that. I will say I love the fact that they use like puppet lion's paws and things like that.
Yeah.
As
Yep.
I thought that was hysterical. Just, I mean,
Well, I guess
cinematography wise.
during filming they would transition from like the paw,
Yeah.
and then a lot of the scenes with the beast where it's just massive is
Yeah.
actually two guys in a dog suit,
I was gonna
like
say, man, that looked
just
wonky.
walking.
Yeah, and also the sometimes like the mouth of the dog looked almost like the teeth were. I was like, those are not dog's teeth. And it was like it looked like
No,
a straight up monster.
right? Or that scene where it where they launch that ball
Yeah.
and it's coming over the fence, and that dog just it's like Jurassic
Yeah,
Park. It's like
I
a
saw
T-Rex.
that. I saw that.
It's
It's
just so
like the
dumb.
old Godzilla movies with the
Mhm.
dolls. I thought that was hysterical. I mean, you did
Yeah,
what you had to do to get the effect.
for sure.
Um,
And then I was gonna say, to the point of like when they're trying to get that ball back too.
mhm,
I think we've talked about this
mhm.
before, but we were kind of the last generation, or one of the last generations,
Yep.
where we
Yep.
didn't have a lot of inside distractions.
Nope.
I guess like every day was an adventure for
Yep.
me when I was a kid. Like we
Yep.
would do. It's like, what are we doing today? You know, I mean, there
Yep.
was no sit inside and play video games. We
Nope.
had video games,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we played them here and there.
Yep.
It's like in the summertime, I was always outside
Yeah.
and always like, getting into trouble and doing stuff like that or whatever, doing
Mhm.
stuff you're not supposed to. We used to bike.
Yeah.
In my community, we used to bike out of town
Cool.
for miles.
Yeah.
Just go out of town and bike. I mean, my parents were both at work, and no one had a babysitter to tell them what to do. You know what I mean? We just did what we did.
Yep.
But
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna ask you, like, was your childhood a lot like that too?
Yeah.
Like you had
Yep.
your group and kind of just went out and
We
did your
had
thing.
we had the group, we had our bikes, we had those little plastic X Games ramps that we would like ride our bikes over that we never nailed down, and so that ramp would follow us in the air, like on our back pedal.
Okay.
Yeah, and it would just like follow and then be that impediment that caused us to like fly over the handles. We had our mud pits. I was just talking to my friends about this yesterday, where we had like mud pits, and we made it our mission to like put ourselves neck deep in these sinkhole mud pits and to come out and just roll around. We had tree houses and everything, and I'll
Mhm.
go even a step further with the video game notion is that I'll go so far as to say that we actively got bored playing video games. You know,
Yeah, I didn't.
that's why we
We
didn't
didn't
play
play
it a
that.
lot. Yeah, we
No.
played it for maybe an hour together, and then we said,
Mhm.
okay, what else can we do? And we would go outside and we would do, whatever outside stuff we needed to do. But yeah, bikes were the
Mhm.
ultimate sense of freedom, man. To be able to
Yeah.
go in and just be a kid.
Yep. Like we had there was this area. It was south of my hometown, we called it the Bluffs.
Yeah.
And it was basically, it was down a do you know what a section line is?
No.
So okay, in counties,
Hmm.
they're divided into sections,
Okay.
like townships, and then sections, and then the like small squares of land, and then they have like little like two tire roads, like
Hmm.
just basically roads that people make. They're not like actually made roads by the county. It's just two tires, two tire
Hmm.
paths, and then
Yeah.
grass in the middle and grass on the side. We would basically drive down a section line, and then there was this little plot of land with like this old dilapidated building on it,
Yeah.
and we would go hang out in that building and just like do
Yeah.
stuff in that little area.
Yeah.
And that was kind of our hang. Like
Yeah.
we called it the Bluffs. I don't know what it was called. I don't know who owned it.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you. But
Yeah.
you had 8 or 9 kids raising hell on your
Yeah.
property every
Yeah.
day.
I will say, in this day and age, if you can give your kids a Sandlot level childhood, you are all the more better of a parent, because it's probably,
Mhm.
I would say, 5 times as hard to give your kid that kind of experience now, against all the other things, that you got going on, and all
I
the
was gonna say,
distractions, man.
I think it's almost next to impossible to do that nowadays.
Probably.
Because
Probably.
most kids, you talk to a kid nowadays, most kids don't really want to be kids. They want to be like content creators and stuff like that at like
Du-
8. You
Dude,
know what I mean?
and what I'm not name dropping her, but
Mhm.
one my daughter's friends, uh, she's 9 years old, and
Yep.
she went to school with these pimple patches on her face. She doesn't have
Okay.
pimples
Yep.
at all. She just did it
Yep.
because it was trending on TikTok. That's all she did it
Okay.
for. And I was like, I can't handle you. I can't.
Yeah.
And she is the bane of my existence, and I won't go any further with that. But
Was it like Nelly with the Band-Aid?
I don't. It was like just these little like circular like
Yep.
patches on here, and it was just trendy. I don't understand. Like every kid now wants to grow older and older and older and older and just look older. And
Mhm.
of course, it was like that for us. We always wanted to like be older, but that path towards being older is now completely exacerbated by all the corporations around that want to capitalize on that. Like again,
Mhm.
Victoria's Secret has a kids line. That's crazy to
Oh
me.
man, that's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, we're going down a whole different path, but it does kind of tie into the Sandlot. Is like if you can isolate
Mhm.
a time in your life as a child to just be a child, to just travel around with your friends, grow as a friend, because ultimately Smalls became a better person after being
Mhm.
with those friends, and those friends became better people after accepting him. And that's one of the most
Yeah.
important things about the story. And I do love it is wholesome. None of it felt forced. It felt like genuine symbiotic relationship building. And that's what I really loved
Well,
about the story.
and that's kind of like when we were kids, that's how you had to go about it. You met a group of kids and they either accepted you or they didn't. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
And then sometimes you would have to do something to get
Hmm.
acceptance. Like
Yeah,
he would have to learn how to catch a ball and throw a ball or whatever.
yeah,
And he made a
yeah,
fool of
yeah,
himself right
yeah.
away.
There
But
was,
I
go ahead.
mean, but yeah, it's like acceptance was a big thing because we all don't have cell phones in our pocket. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We can't make friends with YouTube
Yep.
because we don't have it all
Yeah,
day. And
yeah,
YouTube
exactly.
didn't exist.
Yeah.
You
There,
had your neighborhood and you had your friends.
Yep. There was one moment where I was like, okay, this group really has his kids back. Is when the
Yeah.
ball goes over the fence and Smalls, for the first time, says he'll go over and get it. And they all just rush him on the fence and pull
Yeah.
him down to get him off, because they knew
Mhm.
what was on the other side, or they thought they knew what was on the other side. And
Yep.
then also, another show of teamwork and effort on their end is when the ball goes on the other side near the end, and they realize that it was a ball by Babe Ruth, and now they
Yeah.
all have to put their heads together to figure out how to do it. And I love how there was a callback to Smalls' science forte. Yeah, he brought back
Yep.
his erector robot to
Direct.
go down and get it.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, that was smart. I completely forgot about that from the beginning, but it also shows that he didn't lose who he was by being with these people. And they actually made him better
For
by
sure.
showing them how science worked, I guess.
Yeah. And then I like little details about this movie too, like when the grandfather was telling him he has to put the beast, like chain the beast up in that black and white film or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Squint's grandfather, he's doing the same, pushing the glasses up as
Oh, I think
Squint's.
I remember seeing that. Yeah. Yeah.
And then when they like smack the Babe Ruth ball,
Hmm.
when he like hits it and it's going out of the park, it rotates and then
Yeah.
it comes up to your face and Babe Ruth is right in your face.
Yeah.
That's that.
Yeah.
Yep. But I was gonna say to your to that point of like when you're a kid and you're like it's a very communal thing.
Yeah.
When they uh like all pool in their money to get a ball,
Mm-hmm.
that brought me back to being a kid too, because it's like you kind of all just threw your money in and
Mm-hmm.
you get a 6 pack of soda and a box of donuts and then
Yep.
you all
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
it's a very communal thing. You had 50 cents, I had 25 cents. We just throw it in a big pool
Yep.
and then we split it all equally. It was
Yep.
not that, you gave us less so you get no, no, no.
Yeah.
It was very much you lived and died for your group,
Yep.
basically.
Yep.
I mean, going back to the beast being like a mythical creature and stuff like that, and then Squint's like small details like that, I thought were really good in this movie.
Now, do you think, because ultimately one thing that we're looking for in terms of the storyline is like, okay, here's the point of conflict and let's build towards this conflict. There are these needs and wants of a character and how do we overcome them, things like that. There wasn't like one. I was waiting to find one antagonist, and I think I said this multiple times on the stream. It's like, okay, when the rival team came, oh, it's like, okay, this is the antagonist. That's going to force them to come together, things like that. That didn't happen, and then yes, they came together as a team to overcome the quote unquote beast. But even the original team, they just wiped them clean the first game. And I was like, there really is no major antagonist. This is genuinely a story about friends being friends and growing over a shared experience.
Yep.
And I was like, it really is that crux of the story. It was interesting to see unfold.
Yeah, like that other team, they're the antagonist, but it's very short lived.
Short lived as hell.
Yeah, I would say not even the beast is the beast is the main antagonist, like the visual one.
Yeah.
But also Mr. Myrtle.
Mm.
But you never see Mr. Myrtle.
Yeah.
Mr. Myrtle's almost like a bigger myth than the beast. You know what I mean?
And he never sees you.
He's blind at the end. You know what I mean? And they've never seen Mr. Myrtle, but he's the meanest man that ever lived.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like kind of just people passing information down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that. Then you meet him, and he's a really nice guy. But I think in their heads, Mr. Myrtle is the biggest antagonist. Because like he is, but he isn't, because he's the meanest guy that ever lived, but they've never met him.
Yeah.
They've had nothing but bad things to say about him.
Right. It's like, it's like Cerberus. It's like the Kraken. It's like, is that the meanest or the biggest threat, or is it the owner of that beast?
Yeah. Because it's almost like they explain the beast as Mr. Myrtle made him this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Because but the beast is just territorial like any other dog.
Yeah, and barely at that.
Yeah, and then Mr. Myrtle's a blind old man that they'd never met, and he hears them, but he doesn't see them because he's blind.
I wonder how they got James Earl Jones. Yeah, I wonder how they got James Earl Jones to get to play this character.
I mean, I don't know, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't that great of a box office hit. I don't think it came out.
Okay.
And it wasn't a big movie until physical copies came out.
Gotcha.
That's what I read. It became a huge movie when you could have a VHS in your hand. But I remember reading something that said the kids were so pumped to have James Earl Jones on it just because he voiced Darth Vader.
Yeah.
They were so so pumped to meet Darth Vader.
That's funny.
Stuff like that. So it's like, I mean, I think they probably had a better time with it than him.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it was an easy pay cut. I mean, he was probably the most spatially aware blind man I've ever seen.
Played I think he played a pretty good blind guy. Like just the way he kind of like would hold stuff out and kind of just keep looking forward and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, and then that movie that we talked about, Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of that. It's like, this has been his house for the last
right
40 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, blind or not, you're gonna know every square inch of your house, especially if you have to feel it.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
He'll be super aware of it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's like, oh,
No, I get
everything's
that.
so neatly put,
Hmm.
and then he knows where everything's at, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Now, all right, I got a couple questions. One,
Let's hear
uh,
it.
do they in your research of this, or in just in your pure fanaticism of the movie, did they ever say what made this movie so critically acclaimed? Like, what were other people's takes on it? Like, because
Well,
obviously
like I said,
it's so popular. I'm wondering,
yeah.
from other people's perspectives, what was so popular or enthralling from them?
Um, I think it became such a popular movie because it's around the 4th of July, which we can all relate.
Okay.
Like that scene in the 4th of July, that communal where they're having cookouts and stuff like that.
Yep.
I think part of us, even if we didn't do that as a kid, can kind of relate to that, where everyone comes together and stuff
Hmm.
like that.
Yep.
Two, um, like I said, it wasn't a huge hit until it became, till you could own it. Basically, it
Yeah.
did not do good. It didn't do very good. I don't have the numbers in front of me, I
No,
guess,
that's
but
fine.
yeah, it didn't do very well in theaters,
Mm.
and like I said, it became a cult. It had a cult following basically when you could
Mm.
own it.
Yeah.
And I think the reason it did so well is because it's a movie about being a kid,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
everyone can relate to it in one way or another. Even kids nowadays could
Mm.
relate to that, I think,
Yeah.
in one way or another, even just with friendship forming and stuff like that. But back then,
Yeah.
like in the 60s, 50s, and 40s,
Yeah.
I think, and that's another thing too. I think older people could really relate to that time period
Right. Yeah.
because it did a pretty good job at making it seem like it's not it's California in
Yeah.
the 50s
Yeah.
or 40s or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
They also referenced, baseball players from that era anyway.
Yeah,
And it was like, so yeah, if you were an adult, or even if you were a kid in that era and you became an adult, you're an adult when you were watching it in the 90s. Yeah, you have something definitely to relate to.
yep.
Um,
And I was going to say another thing too on top of that. I think people don't understand that baseball was America's game
mm-hmm.
and we just came out of a world war.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think there was a lot of patriotism with baseball,
Yeah.
and I think baseball was bigger than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Like even nowadays, I think it was massively because you had your Babe Ruths, you had your Roger Marises, you had stuff like that.
Yep.
But how many kids nowadays can tell you the top 10 baseball players in the
Yeah.
MLB? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's not people going around saying I'm having a licorice in their mouth,
Yeah. Yeah.
saying the great Bambino.
Yep.
It was more of and on top of that too, we didn't have Twitter. You know what I mean? Back then, if you liked somebody, you couldn't contact them on Twitter.
Yeah.
You had
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
to the game and just look at them, and they were almost as mythical
Yeah.
as the beast itself,
Yeah.
just because they seem almost unreal.
Yeah.
Like even when I was a kid and I went to wrestling stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I saw Hulk Hogan and stuff like that on
Yeah.
TV.
Yep.
And all of a sudden he's 40 yards away from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It almost doesn't seem real.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of people can relate to that time too, where you didn't have the internet. You couldn't, you could write them a letter,
Yeah.
but you're probably not going to get a letter back, and then
Yeah.
the letter's probably not going to get to them.
And honestly, that is the crux of loss of innocence, is that when you start out having these myths that you believe and everything seems larger than life, and then slowly but surely over time you become an adult and those facades start to kind of fade away and they're replaced with logic and reasoning. But kids these days, yeah, you're right, with the access to the internet, they're so oversaturated with what's actually real and behind the scenes that all of that fantasy is completely like drawn out before you actually have a chance to live it. And
Yep.
like for example, I see a lot of kids who really want to get into virtual reality. They want to do all like stuff
Yeah.
just online, and I'm like, experience actual reality before you start defining what reality. Like if you define virtual reality as your actual reality before experiencing actual reality, you're going to choose
Yeah.
the virtual reality that's going to tell you everything you want to hear.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like you want to make a career path in virtual reality, and half these kids have never had real life experience.
Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? And so it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't
Yeah.
know, go on a trip, go see
Yeah.
something you've never seen before.
Yeah.
That's why I'm an advocate for like growing up where I did, I'm an advocate for just getting out and
Yeah. Yeah.
seeing like the world, even if it's 100 miles away. Go see it.
Yeah.
It's like because we don't have a lot around here,
Mm-hmm.
and I think people take um sightseeing and stuff
Yeah.
like that for granted because you can see
Mm-hmm.
there's cool. It would be a trip for a kid from New York City to come here,
Yep.
just because there's nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
All they see is concrete,
Yep.
and now it's fields, green fields, and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then vice versa, a kid from here would be a trip to go to New York
Yeah.
because it's just that yin yang.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like I think a lot of people take that for granted, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like when I was younger, I was very like shut in,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really care to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Like from Fargo, Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
When I used to go to Sioux Falls is one of the prettiest areas I've ever been in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just right over there. It's a 300-mile drive.
Yeah.
It's like just go spend a day somewhere.
Yeah.
Go spend a day. The biggest advice I could give to somebody if they really want to experience something is go alone. Don't
Yeah.
go with a group.
Yep. Hands down. Absolutely.
Do not rely on other people to make your plans for you. Make your plans and boom.
And also what
And
I
if you
found,
sit- I was going to say, and if you sit in that cafe for 3 hours alone, drinking coffee, and just people watching, that's your experience. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I also found when I was with my friends, I found myself thinking about what I wanted to say or like putting on a show for other people. And if you go alone, you have no other thoughts but yourself, your own thoughts, and you're just at a different level of peace, which you can't get with going with other people. And so, yeah, go alone if you can. It's one of the most relaxing things that you can do.
Yeah. And then I'm also saying it from the standpoint of don't let other people be your distraction. Don't do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go somewhere, go. You know what I mean? It's like these family vacations and stuff. They're good.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. It's good to go out with family and stuff like that and go on a vacation. But how many times, 9 times out of 10, you're doing what they want to do? Somebody's making an itinerary.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing too, go somewhere with no plan.
Yeah.
And just ask locals, what do you do?
Yeah.
I'm a tourist, but I don't want to do tourist things.
Yep.
What do you do?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I was telling you, I plan on coming to New York or California.
Yep.
I kind of want a local's perspective. I don't want to do tourist things.
Yeah.
I don't. The Statue of Liberty is cool.
Yep. Yeah.
But I have no interest in standing in a line for 3 hours. I just don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To go see the Statue of Liberty, I'd rather do. What do you guys do for fun? What bars do you go? What restaurants?
And
you know
that's when you really tap into some cool stuff.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Because how many people come from a place and they say, "Oh, we did this, that, and the other," and half the time it's touristy things.
Right. Yeah.
And
First timers.
Yep. And on top of that too, I tell people all the time, who are the people that get robbed in New York? The people that are looking up and looking at everything. You're acting like a tourist.
Right. Yeah. I will say the first timers, when they come back, their albums are filled with the same pictures as everybody else's of Times Square, Rockefeller Center, Empire State Building, Statue of Liberty, which is completely fine. But if you wanted to get away from the crowds, that's when you start really tapping into some cool stuff. Like I'm gonna start doing some more food vlogs around here because there's so much that just deserves the limelight that's not shown a light from the touristy perspective. But yeah, I completely agree. There's so much. If you just ask the locals what they do, you're all the better for it.
Or like LA.
Yep.
There's certain places. I'm a huge music guy.
Yep.
So to me, more than anything, more than a tourist spot in LA, I want to go to a place where Jim Morrison walked these streets.
Yep.
He breathed this air. He was in this bar. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
He was very much local, and it's very much local things.
Yep.
Go to the Rainbow because there's countless musicians that hung out at the Rainbow and stuff like that. I want to do stuff like that. I have my own idea of like tourist, stuff like that. But it's like I don't want to see, the Hollywood sign. It's a piece of wood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I'm driving 3 hours to see a piece of wood. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like I appreciate. I mean, it's a sign to sign. I appreciate what it symbolizes. Like that's what I care more about. It was like, what I care about the meaning, the reason why that Hollywood sign is so iconic. I want to see that. I want to see the tours. I want to see behind the scenes, all that stuff. So actually, to that point, Babe Ruth, the great Gambino, or Bambino, shit, right?
Bambino.
Is it Bambino?
Great.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all
great
watch.
Bambino. I'm gonna cut that. All right, hold on, give me a
What
second.
is it? The great.
44.
Yep. The great.
I was
It's
thinking
what?
Childish
Great
Gambino.
Bambino.
Yep. Obviously, their icon, the entire group. Who is your equivalent of the great Bambino in your life? Someone who you hold to that same standard.
I'm gonna say, and I watched his farewell concert on Saturday. I watched 9 hours of his farewell
Oh
concert.
my God.
To me, there is few people more iconic in my life than Ozzy Osbourne.
Really? I did not
Yes,
expect that.
Just from the music standpoint, because I was a musician pretty much all my life, and I've wanted to play music all my life.
Yep.
And there are few. He did. There's a couple of things. He did what he loved to do. He played music all his life, even through poverty and stuff like that.
Yep.
2, he was always grateful to do it. He never took it for granted. Like he is as appreciative of his fans back then as he was Saturday night when he did his last concert.
Yeah.
And he is, to me, he's just the epitome of a performer.
Wow.
In my eyes, I guess he's never looked at himself as more of. He's always looked at himself as an equal. Like he could sit down with you and have a conversation with you for 3 hours and be happy to do it.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
He's never. I think that's lost in this day and age with celebrity.
Yeah.
Because half these people won't even stop and take a picture with a kid.
That's true.
It's like
I will say though, these celebrities nowadays have to put up with not even just physical adoration, but online social adoration, just like a bunch of DMs, not just emails and everything, but just constant flooding. And the demand even of a celebrity and just the invasion into your personal life is unlike anything that they had to deal with in the 90s or 80s. So I get that.
I mean, but to me, it's small gestures, just small gestures. Like he would stop and take a picture with anybody.
Yeah.
He would talk to you on a personal level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You might say he's a god to you or whatever, and he would tell you to cut it out.
Yeah.
He's just a normal kid. He was a poor guy from Birmingham.
Right.
That got lucky. You know what I mean? He's always been genuinely himself.
Yep.
And there's still people around in this day and age of celebrity that are that way. But I think it's kind of lost on a lot of people. Yeah. But you gotta consider too, he grew up in every decade.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know what I mean? He kind of had to reinvent himself every decade.
Yeah,
so
I get
he's
that.
been around it, he's had the internet and stuff like that. And he's been around a little bit for it, but for the most part, he was as mythical as as Babe Ruth, and then he's out in the open as well. You know, he's kind of lived both lives. Yeah. But I would say Ozzy Osbourne. Okay. There's not that many people more influential in my life to play music.
Yeah,
that's just nice. Because he kind of, like I said, he did it for the love of music. He didn't do it because, like I said, he when he moved in with his wife Sharon, he had a plastic bag with clothes in it. Wow. That's all his worldly possessions. He did it because he loved to do it, not because it made him money. It made him money eventually, but he was not that ballin' back in the 70s, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. He used to have to bum cigarettes off of people. It's like,
Yeah.
What about you? Same question. Like, icon. Like, if you could have one icon that kind of shaped your life for better or worse, I guess.
Shaped my life. I don't know. I'm not huge into holding certain celebrities like above me at least to some deity level, but I do at my core appreciate a lot of people for the work that they've done and the influence they've had on me, hands down. So a lot of musicians, dead or alive, I mean, I go all the way back to, to orchestral and to like Mozart level. I mean, like I appreciate all of that. There's one celebrity that I actually cried over in his death, and that's Robin Williams. Robin Williams he shaped my childhood in a way that no other celebrity had done. He influenced my family and the time that we spent together, I think I would be able to. I'd be grateful for that. A lot of his comedy, a lot of his bits, a lot of his voices I mimicked growing up. But I think
Yeah.
there are other people that I really appreciate, like Derek Delgadio. He's a really talented magician who has a special on Hulu that made me bawl to my absolute like core. Um, and I got to show you that later.
Mhm.
I think though, oh god, I just had his name. There was Robin Williams. Um, and it's gone. It's completely gone. I'm not going to waste time on the pod thinking about it. Robin Williams was definitely one. And it's people, if you can influence my childhood like that, oh, got it. There was a particularly tough time in my family, and the way that we got over it was we sat down and we watched The Office. And it was a
Okay.
chance where all of us could just get together and laugh. And if I could go and if I could thank Steve Carell personally for that time that we spent together, laughing at him completely making an ass of himself for
Mhm.
families' entertainment so families can come together every night, no matter what hardships we faced on the outside, I would
Yep.
do that hands down. So that would probably be mine. Would be like somebody like Steve Carell, maybe Jon Stewart.
Yep.
So,
I can see. Yeah, I can see what you're saying with like the show.
yep,
Like I would say, Robin Williams. To your point,
yeah,
Robin Williams is for me a comedic
hmm,
icon
yep,
for me.
yep,
Like as far as comedy as well.
yep,
I would say Ozzy Osbourne musically,
yep,
Robin Williams is up there for comedy because again, like Ozzy Osbourne,
hmm,
there was no one that was a harsher critic than on Robin Williams
yep,
than Robin Williams.
yeah,
Robin Williams
yep,
never thought he was a great comedian.
yep,
He
yep.
never thought he was a
Literally
great
to the
actor.
day he died.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that's part of what put him in the grave.
yeah,
He just couldn't get around
yeah,
the celebrity of why do people love me so
yeah,
much and stuff like that. He
yeah.
doesn't love himself.
Um,
And then I was gonna say the show that my family watched, we could all just kind of get together was when I was a little kid, we would watch Friends when it
okay.
was still on.
Yep.
And that was our show,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like those feel good ones that I will say between Steve Carell and Robin Williams, when they needed to act genuine, they did such a good job. And it cut through you like a knife. Like I remember seeing Robin
Mhm.
Williams for one of the first times. Obviously knew his voices and everything, saw Mrs. Doubtfire, but I think it was like the second movie I saw him in was Good Will Hunting. And
Yeah.
I've never seen, even to this day, a more genuine performance that I believed than him in that. And he
I
cut
was gonna
deep.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. I don't with Robin Williams too. It's like he did so well with the comedic angle
Yep.
and the serious angle.
Yep.
There's two comics that I think do that very well, like that people don't really think of,
Uh huh.
and Will Ferrell is one of them.
Okay. Interesting.
His serious roles I think are some of the best movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember the name of it, but it has Jake Gyllenhaal's sister in it, and she's
Maggie
like an
Gyllenhaal.
yeah,
Huh.
and Will Ferrell's an auditor, and he's auditing her bakery.
Hmm.
Oh, it's a movie where a lady's writing his story,
Okay.
but doesn't know she's writing a story, and she has to kill him off in the back. And
Gotcha.
everything that he's like hearing her voice as
Yeah.
she's writing this book.
Yeah.
And then another one was Jim Carrey.
Oh,
I,
absolutely.
Jim Carrey's serious roles are
Hmm.
so good.
Yep. He
Yeah,
might be
I
another
just thought,
person that I would really love to meet and thank. Did you ever see Just Kidding on HBO Max? Or was it just, I think it was only Kidding, where he was that Mr. Rogers like children's TV host, but he was really broken on the outside, and
no,
that really went to lengths explaining just how some of the best artists, some of the funniest people in the world are the most tortured. They do it because they're so addicted to the applause. They're chasing the laugh. They're forever doing that at their own expense, and it's such a high. And even Robin Williams talked about that. He was like literally addicted to. He wasn't whole unless other people told him he was whole,
yeah,
and that's by validation through thunderous applause. And yes, you lose a sense of yourself when you're not doing that. And it's such
nope.
it's a common story, but it's never less tragic to hear.
Yep. I
Oh.
remember I remember Jim Carrey. His one of his jokes was my favorite joke ever, and it's a clean joke.
Mhm.
It's one of his cleaner jokes. Is he would tell people this is the impression of a the angry Saint Bernard, and he would take a gulp of water and he would just bark and shake his head and just spit the water. It's so funny.
He is one of the best of all time.
Oh,
Um,
he's easily one of the best of all time.
yeah. All right. Wrapping up Sandlot here.
Yep.
Anything
Mhm.
else you wanted to say about it?
I was gonna say I did do some research on a few things.
Okay, hit me.
Two things. I'll leave it with the two or three things here really quick. I guess during the filming,
Uh huh.
the entire group of kids
Mhm.
they got in trouble for sneaking in to Basic Instinct.
Oh my god.
So a bunch
That
of
is
10-year-olds.
they are literally
It's not
they are literally not just characters. They are the characters.
very much. That's why I was like, listen to that podcast. You're gonna
Yeah.
hear some stories and stuff
That's
like that.
funny.
And then the chewing tobacco.
Yep.
The people that made the chewing tobacco for the movie, the
Mhm.
chewing tobacco was licorice and bacon bits. And it
Oh
was yeah,
god.
gross, right? And
Oh.
it was said that the licorice and bacon bits made the kids puke and get sick just like chewing tobacco. So it wasn't like
I would
when they were
imagine.
chewing it and a lot of the disgust and stuff like that that shows on their face is because it was so disgusting.
Yeah. Oh, were they actually on the ride? That's something I was trying to figure out.
I think so.
Okay, so they just mounted cameras onto the front of each car.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I don't like guys. I don't know if it was like a green screen behind them that
Yeah,
was
that'd be
making
pretty
the
hard to
motion.
do because, like, the motion,
Yeah.
they had it down.
Well, yeah, they're like sliding into
Yeah.
the turns and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I guess that's a good question. I never looked that up. I guess
I'm just always looking at angles and production.
right. Um, all right, two more things. The shoes, the PF Flyers,
Uh huh.
because of this movie, they were Reebok bought the rights to PF Flyers and brought
Okay.
them back in 2001, I
Hmm.
think, or
Yeah.
whatever. But this movie revamped the entire line of PF Flyers
Yeah.
because you could run faster and jump higher.
Mhm.
Everyone wanted PF Flyers after this movie because
That's
they weren't around,
yeah.
and then the
Mhm.
stigma behind PF Flyers is you could run faster and jump higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
They made Benny the Jet outrun the Beast, basically.
Yeah.
And you'll appreciate this as a director, I think, and like an actor.
Okay.
The entire night scene
Yep.
was filmed in just 2 hours.
Wow. I
I
was
guess
gonna
because
say, it it was impressive because I could see when they started the festival. I was like, okay,
yep.
either they do it over a couple of days, but I could totally see them doing it pretty quickly because there wasn't a whole lot they needed to do. But that's
Well, the
really
director,
awesome.
yeah, the director said that it made them zone in, and it made them focus like kind of like not like any other part of the movie.
Huh.
They said they would focus on it because the fireworks and stuff like that made them seem kind of larger than life. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Made them seem like they were like the fireworks were them and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And he said they would play. He said they played harder and they did it with such precision and stuff like that.
Hmm.
He said it didn't. They didn't think it was going to take 2 hours, but he said he thinks that they were just such in the zone because those fireworks were actually going off and
That's
stuff like
awesome.
that. Yeah.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, that's kind of what I have for that. And then one more thing
Yeah.
before we wrap up. Wendy Peppercorn. I think we've
Yeah.
all had our own Wendy
Uh-huh.
Peppercorn.
So
As far as
this
like going
yeah.
to the pool and stuff like that.
So I was gonna that scene prompted this last question for me that I'm interested in hearing from you.
Okay.
With that scene, with obviously what's his name? Specs?
Squints.
Squints.
Mhm.
Doing that, I was like, oh man. Because half of me was like, wow, okay, I could totally see some of my friends doing that. And then another half of me was like, oh man, you could not do that now. I was
No.
like thinking, do you think this movie would hold up or have the same success if it debuted today
Um,
in its exact form? Maybe updated cameras, angles, but essentially the same story.
I don't think so because I think this came out kind of when that was hot, like
Yeah,
the kid movies and stuff like that.
yeah,
Because like the Home Alones,
yeah,
and then I think later on in the late '90s and early
yeah,
2000s, they had a lot more kid movies, and I
yeah,
think that's kind of came and went.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like there still are kid movies and stuff like that, but they're very like G
yeah,
rated, I
yeah,
guess
yeah.
almost.
Hmm.
And this one's kind of raunchy.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I don't think kids these days would be able to like relate to Little Rascals or you know like Sandlot.
no,
You know.
no. Um, that's the thing too. It's like you kind of have to relate to it. I think adults would appreciate it more.
Hmm.
It would probably be a bigger hit with like adults.
Yeah.
Like if they were released now,
Yeah.
adults just like it was kind of because adults can relate to it. They were kids
Yeah.
when they were kids.
Do you think it's partially the adults now too that are kind of to blame? Because do you think it's adults have changed as well? Like, do you think adults would just let their kids go off for hours on end, only to expect them back at a certain time these days?
Oh well, kids are definitely more sheltered like
Yeah.
now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like especially with cell phones. Everyone has a cell phone. I didn't have
Yeah.
a cell phone until I was 17
I almost
or
wonder if
whatever.
that would make parents more likely to send their kids off knowing that they had their phone on them. But instead of the kids
It's
taking it upon themselves to go bike riding, they take it upon themselves to just go
yeah.
text in mass at a Panera.
Well, it's yeah, pretty much like
Yeah.
who's got the best Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
where
yeah,
they're gonna
yeah,
go.
exactly.
But I think to that point, like they have cell phones, so you think they would have a little bit more of a leash,
Yeah.
like let them off their leash a little bit more.
Yeah.
It almost worked in the opposite way.
It did. Yeah.
Like not only not only is that cell phone a form of control,
Mhm.
but also the curfew they set. But the cell phone only gave them the power to call them and tell them to get home.
Yep.
We never had that. You had
Yep.
a curfew, and if you were late, you were late, and
Yep.
you dealt with consequences.
Right.
But your parents could never call you. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and
They
that's
could
something,
call
and yeah, and even when they could, like when I still had my flip phone, I was still riding my bike in sixth grade when I got my first flip phone, but
sure.
they couldn't track your location. You weren't caring about
Mhm.
Wi-Fi. There was no video that was dropping that you were waiting for. No, your focus was on one pedal after the other. That
Yep.
was it.
The basically what my parents could do, they could call the three houses that I might be at, and if I'm not at those houses, then I guess you're just waiting.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Because
Yep.
even my flip phone,
Hmm.
if you could put a GPS tracker on that flip phone, I would be shocked because my flip phone didn't have internet.
Yeah.
It was a phone. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? That's
Yeah.
it. You could dial and that's it.
The one time I ever heard my dad scream was when I found out that my phone had a limited number of texts on it, and I had blown past that thing the first
Mhm.
month. Oh,
There
that was
was
a lot of zeros on that bill.
yep, when I had my first phone, like my mom got us phones just because she wanted that form of control. She
Hmm.
wanted to know where we were and she could
Yeah.
call our phone. But that was that time when you would have to make your calls and your texts after 9.
Yeah.
You know, after 9 o'clock because it
Yeah.
was all free.
Yeah.
So it's like, you didn't call anyone until after 9
Nope.
usually. You sent texts here and there, but no, 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 no.
Yep. Man,
Yeah.
to go back to the childhood of the Sandlot would be a dream, I think, for any millennial at
Mhm.
this point. But it
Yeah.
was a treat. It was an absolute treat to watch the Sandlot. It brought me back to a lot of my memories as a child.
Mhm.
I had a great time watching. I know you obviously have a great time every time you watch it. Otherwise, you wouldn't
Yep.
watch it every single time.
Yeah. I mean, for what it lacks in like it has storyline and for what it lacks as somewhat like concrete substance,
Mhm.
it just takes you back to a time.
Yeah,
You know what I
and
mean?
it's
It puts
simple.
you there.
Yeah, it's simple, but I think it has to be because if it added anything else, it would take away from just how honestly how simple childhood can be.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's simple to us as adults, but it's important to them as kids. And like that's
And
kind of
like
where you need to keep the story.
yeah, and like I said, we can all relate to breaking something of our parents and losing something of our parents and we're dead. You know what I mean? We're
Yep.
thinking it's over. They're going to kill us and throw us in the basement.
Yeah.
We're dead.
Yeah.
But it's like we can all relate to that too, like
Yeah. Yeah.
messing up and
Yeah. And
facing consequences or
I
trying to
think
hide.
right. And I think that's why something like this is so impactful, especially for adults, is because we see ourselves in those kids. But it's also kind of innocent to just see them so hyped up about something so simple, like kissing Wendy and getting away with it. And you seeing all the other kids' reaction, like, oh my God, he's going to do it. And we're just like, it's something so trivial as adults, but it's so humbling to see kids experience that for the first time, albeit through probably less scrupulous methods than, the scripts did, but
Or like when they get that baseball, they pool their money in and they get that baseball. They're over the moon about that baseball, just like we were to have a soda and a sliver of a donut.
Yep.
It's like you did it on your own and you felt, you were kind of just that was your escape for the day, or that was your treat. You know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely. Well, that was The Sandlot. It was an amazing time watching it. I enjoyed taking me back to all the childhood memories. Again, I know you loved it. I loved it as well. Stay tuned. Next episode, we'll be watching something else. I don't think we haven't decided quite yet, but stay tuned. We'll be on the lookout for that next. Nothing else. Hey, I hope you guys had a great 4th of July weekend. We did. Absolutely. Stay tuned for the next episode. I'm Writer.
And I'm John.
We'll see you guys next time.